Hello, my name is Caleb Marsh. I'm a Technology Transformation Associate at Grant Thornton, and today I'm going to be walking through what I have built for the DocuSign CLM Capstone. As you can see, this is an opportunity page from within Salesforce that has two features provided by the integration with DocuSign and Salesforce. The first being this pane down here at the bottom that provides access and insight into all the documents related to this opportunity. We also have a create contract button up at the top where sales representatives from XYZ Corporation can create contracts from within Salesforce. So in order to create a contract, we have two options: generate or upload a third-party contract. To start, we're going to walk through the generate workflow. We have the form here where sales representatives have to complete the effective date and designate a point of contact for each contract. All of this information is dynamic and pulled from Salesforce to maintain data integrity. This information changes based on the account that is related to the opportunity. This information here changes, as well as the drop down for contacts change. But the form is all filled out now and looks good, so we're going to go ahead and click on next. And right now the workflow is merging the information we filled out in the form with the template that we have designated for this contract. So we now have a services agreement between XYZ and Grant Hotels and Resorts with all of the information filled out as required. So we're going to go ahead and click save, and the rest of the workflow is going to begin. So two things happen in the opportunity page after the workflow has been kicked off and the contract has been generated. First, the status changes from prospecting to negotiation and review, and the contract is populated in this pane down here. So the sales representative can click on the contract and get a nice preview of the current version of the contract, as well as do some version control if necessary. They can see their tasks related to this document and also look at any attributes for the document. So the stage one is probably going to be the most important for sales representatives. They want to know exactly where the contract is within the life cycle. And currently it's awaiting legal review from our legal persona. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the legal persona and show you exactly how their process looks. So to start, they get an email saying a contract has been generated. Please review it and determine the best course of action going forward. So they get an email notification. They can also look at the tasks page and see all of the tasks that they are assigned to. The customer name gets populated into the info column to give them some context for exactly what actions need to be taken. So whether you click on the link or click on the choice through this page, you get taken to the same page where you have four options as the legal persona. You can send for external review, send for internal review, or send for signature, or reject the document. So you can see through the preview, or you can also download the file and edit it in Word. So we're going to download it and open it up in Word and make some changes. So when we click on enable editing, we'll be able to edit it just like any other Word document, make any changes necessary. We're just going to delete this paragraph here, click save, and once it's been saved, we'll be able to re-upload it into the workflow, and all the subsequent steps will use this most recent version. So after it's uploaded, we're going to go ahead and send it for internal review, just so all of the parties within XYZ Corporation can agree on the document before we send it for external review. So we're going to go ahead, send for internal review. Once we click on next, we'll be able to select a user. Now it's important that this part here is dynamic. So we could have it automatically route back to the salesman, but sometimes corporations need to get approval from multiple different departments before a contract can be agreed upon. So having the ability to dynamically select anyone that you want for internal review is very important, but we're going to go ahead and send it back to the salesman that generated the contract. So when we go back to the salesman persona, we can see that we now have a task for Grand Hotels and Resorts. We have to make an approval. You can see in the instructions, legal has updated the contract after reviewing. Please approve or reject the changes to the contract. So we're not exactly sure what exactly has been changed. So we're going to go ahead and click compare with version 1, which is the generated document. So all of the version control is done within the CLM system. So you don't have to manually track all of the changes to the contract, which can get tedious. So when you click on compare, it'll compare the generated contract to the one that legal had just updated. And you can see that this paragraph here has been deleted. So that looks good with us. We're going to go ahead and click on approve. Contract changes are approved. And click on complete. We can see that we have no more tasks. So we go back to the legal persona and they now have to decide what happens with the contract now. So one thing that's helpful for at any step within the process is you can see all of the activity that the workflow has gone through. So the first step in the workflow was our choice, which we selected send for internal review. We chose the user, and then the user we selected approved. They also added a comment here saying contract changes are approved. This comment functionality is really important because you can provide comments as it goes through the workflow, whether that's like need to route to someone or however an organization wants to use this functionality. It just provides a lot of helpful context and tracks all of the communication regarding this specific document, which is really helpful. So this all looks good internally from within XYZ Corporation. So we're going to go ahead and send it for external review. So right now, it's going to be sent for external review, and it's going to go to the point of contact that was designated from within the form. So I also want to show one thing really quick. So as things are going, the salesman can check from within Salesforce and see what exactly is happening. So we can see we're currently waiting for this user to complete a task. We can see all of the history of what's going on. We can see that I had approved the contract changes. Maddie selected send for external review. And we can see that on the stage, it's been updated. So we're currently awaiting external review. This is just helpful for salesmen to see what's going on exactly with their contract in the life cycle. So we had sent it for external review, and this is what the external point of contact gets as a notification. They get a customized greeting saying, Tim Barr, please review the contract we have for you. Please make any changes necessary to the document. So when they click on review, they get prompted to go to a page in their web browser that gives them a how-to and how to complete their review. Please download or read the document in the browser. If you update the document, we'll upload a new version, add notes or a message in the comments field. So we're going to go ahead and download. And we're just going to delete this paragraph here. Save. And click next, and we can re-upload the file we just saved. Any comments? Remove a paragraph and click finish. Complete. And now it's going to be routed back to legal, who will decide what to do with the contract. So when we switch back to the legal persona, we can see we have a choice again. And we can check the activity. We can see when it was sent for external review, they removed a paragraph. We can do any redlining if we want to. And now we have the same 4 choices. So it's really important to note that this can be done as many times as necessary to get to the final document that's required. Oftentimes there's not going to be just one round of redlining between parties. It's going to be multiple iterations of the same file, and having this process loop and having all of the red lines tracked from within the system just makes it super simple to manage that process. So when we click on that, we can see here that this paragraph was deleted. We can also compare with the first version, which will compare the generated contract with the most up-to-date version that the external point of contact provided. So this could be really helpful when you have a couple different versions. Maybe you want to go back to a previous version and see what happened there. So we can see that this paragraph was deleted as a part of the external review, and this paragraph was deleted as part of the internal review. So that just makes it super simple to maintain all of the version control within the system. So both parties now agree on the finalized contract. So we're going to go ahead and send for signature. So we have the send for signature going to the XYZ sales representative first. They get the email notification and they get prompted to sign the document through an email that looks like this. When they click on this, they'll be taken to the DocuSign e-signature, where they just have to click on sign and all of their information is pre-populated. So they just have to click on sign and then finish. And their part of the signature process is done. And now it's going to be routed to the external point of contact for signature. The external point of contact gets a similar email. They just have to click on review document and go through the same process. Their title and name is going to be populated as well. You can see here, this is the name of the account, this is the title. You can change it if need be. The date's populated. They just have to click on sign, click finish, and the contract is signed. This completes the process. There are currently email notifications going out to the proper party saying the document has been signed, completed. There's a couple workflow steps being done. This is the email that is sent out. All parties have completed the contract for signature. This is the document. If you want to look at it, they can go to this page and see the signed and finalized document. Another important step in this process is updating Salesforce. So what's going to happen is this status bar here is going to be updated to closed, and the finalized contract is going to be down at the bottom. So when we click on refresh, you can see that it was updated to closed. There's a PDF of the document was signed in the description, and you can click on this and you can see all of the, this is a new document, but you can see that it was signed and that is the current status. It is stored in the repository as a PDF with the document signatures right there. So that is the generate workflow. Next, I'm going to be walking through the upload workflow, where you can upload a third-party contract and have it go through the same process, but with an extra step for the sales manager approval. All right, I'm now going to walk through the upload of a third-party contract capability. So you can see here we have a opportunity with High Tech Corporation. We have the same pane down here at the bottom that provides access to all the documents related to the opportunity, and the same create contract button up at the top. We'll click the create contract button, and this time we're going to select upload. You can see here it's a similar form, but on this left side we have the ability to select a file. We're gonna go ahead and select this contract here. We have to fill out the effective dates and the drop down, same as the last form. I wanted to note here that these fields are editable, and you can pull Salesforce data and make them editable and then merge that edited field into the contract. You might want to have this if you have dirty data within Salesforce, but the best approach is updating the data in Salesforce and then having this as fields that are not changeable. So once the form is filled out, we're going to go ahead and click save, and it's going to kick off the workflow. So once that happens, you can see we have the same functionality. The document is accessible through the pane, and the status has been updated to negotiation and review. So the only difference between the third-party upload and the generated contract is an extra step of approval. So if we go to the attributes, we can see in the stage that we're awaiting sales manager approval. So I'll go ahead and switch to the sales management persona that we created. So we have a notification saying Caleb Marsh has uploaded a third-party contract for approval. Please review at the following link. So as the sales manager, I can click on this link, or I can go through the task as displayed in the last process. So the instructions read, please ensure that all sales related information is acceptable. Legal will review the contract after approval. So then I have three options. I can approve the contract if I believe it meets all the guidelines set by XYZ Corporation. I can send it back for the salesman to edit the original contract and resubmit, and I can reject the contract altogether. We're going to go ahead and review this document. Everything looks good, so we're going to go ahead and approve. I wanted to note that you can change the comments to be required. So say we were to send for resubmission, we want to make sure that the sales manager is saying why this contract is going to have to be resubmitted. So having this comments field be required will allow them to ensure that there are comments saying this contract did not meet this guideline for whatever reason. So we're just going to put approve to meet the required, and then hit complete. And we're going to go back to the original process of legal getting the contract. Same thing happens. They get a notification. We created a new contract. Please review it and determine the best action going forward. And the same process happens. We can download the file and edit it. We're going to go ahead and we're actually going to download the file, make a change. We're going to say, we're just going to delete this one here. Oh. We're going to delete this paragraph here. Save. Save. And re-upload. And again, we get the same version control that I mentioned in the last process, the same redlining functionality, which I'll display soon. And then we're going to go ahead and send it for internal review. Because we made a change, we want to make sure that the salesman is on board and everyone internally is good before we send it out for external review. So again, we get the same dynamic. Please choose a user or a group. I'm going to send it back to the salesman, which was Caleb. Complete. And now the salesman gets an email saying they have a task. We can also access it through this view. So again, even with third-party contracts, you get all of the same redlining functionality that you get with generated contracts. So we'll see what that looks like. So when we scroll down, we'll be able to see that that was deleted. So we're going to go ahead and approve. And again, if the salesman wanted to go into Salesforce, see where things are, you can see it's in negotiation and review. We can also look at the document attributes to see it's currently awaiting legal review because we just sent it back to the legal team. So when we switch back to the legal persona, we know that everyone is on board within XYZ Corporation, and we're going to go ahead and send it out for external review. Similar to the last process, what it's doing now is finding the point of contact that was designated in the form and sending them an email. So you can see that the name changed to John Doe. Please review the contract we have for you. Please make any changes necessary. So if we go to the review button and click on it, we can see that we get the same pop-up regardless of if it was a generated contract, if it was a third-party contract that was uploaded and going through the same process, we get the same functionalities. So if we download enable editing and delete this paragraph, save it, and re-upload. Feedback is submitted and sent back to legal for review. So if we refresh, we see we have another task for High Tech Corporation. This info, filling out the customer name, is really helpful when you have multiple contracts happening at a time. So we can see through the activity that the sales manager has approved it. We sent it for internal review, who then approved it. We sent it for external review. They removed one paragraph, which we're fine with. If we want to redline, we can see that a paragraph was removed here. So it looks like everyone is on board with this current version of the contract. We're going to go ahead and send it for signature. And it's going to go through the same process of sending the document to the salesperson first for signature. And then after the salesperson signs, it's going to be routed to the external point of contact for signature. So we get the same email. Here's the agreed upon contract. Please review. When we do this, we're going to be able to drag and drop our name. We don't need last name. Title. So you're able to drag and drop all of the fields onto this document and it will function the same. The reason for this is on a third-party contract, you're not going to be able to designate where those signatures go, which you can on the merged templates, which make it really easy. The merged templates make it really easy to just click and sign, but on third-party contracts, you are not able to do that. So the third party will then get the same email, and when you click on the document, you're routed to the same page. So you can see that that information was complete. We just need to sign it as the third party. So when we do that, we can put our name here, title, we can put the date, and then our signature. And then we're good. Finish. And everything is finished now, so all the email notifications are going out saying everything was signed. We're going to be able to see the same thing in Salesforce saying that all the statuses have been updated, and we'll see the PDF of the signed document. Here's what the notification of completed signature looks like. So we could view the completed document if we want to, same as the last process. So when we go to Salesforce, we'll be able to see that everything is closed. We can look at the signed document with our signatures down at the bottom. We can see the sign date, status, stage, and our signatures down here. So next I'm going to be walking through exactly how the workflow works and some of the design choices that we made. All right, so far we have covered the generated document and the upload capability of a third-party contract. They both followed the same workflow with that extra step of approval for the third-party contract. So at a high level, this is the workflow that I've built to support the business requirements of XYZ Corporation. So at the start, we have some updating variables, some updating from the CSV mapping file and updating of Salesforce. And then we get to the big decision point of whether it was an uploaded third-party contract or a generated contract. If it was uploaded, then it goes through these extra steps of having the sales management approve. The sales management can approve, it can be sent for resubmission, or it can just be rejected. If it's approved, if it is a approved third-party contract or a generated contract, it then goes here where the legal person assigned to reviewing that specific customer has the choice of send for internal review, external review, or send for signature. So if they choose send for internal review, we do some updates. They are required to select a user. If you remember, I selected the salesperson every time, but obviously that can change based on the business need and who exactly needs to review that. And then they have to approve that change, and then it gets sent back to legal where they can send for external review, let's say. And then this is the send for external review process where it then is routed back to legal, who then can finally send for signature, where they have the integration with the DocuSign eSign, and all the signatures are gathered, and then we have some ending updates to the document metadata and stage message in Salesforce, and then the workflow is finally finished. So you can see that we can go through multiple rounds of external review and internal review. It's all designated by legal. It's not just a one-time process, because that's not how real life contract negotiation works. It's more of an iterative process till you finally get to that finalized document, which is then sent for external review. So I'm going to go a little bit further in depth into each swim lane and show you, I don't know, exactly what happens at each part of the process. Okay, so Okay, so we have the first step of updating a variable. These are pulled from the form that is filled out by the salesperson through Salesforce. We update some variables such as street, city, state, customer email, effective date, name, the person who actually submitted the email, the customer name, and then we go to update information. So if you remember, I mentioned that as you're going through the process, and if you click on your tasks page, you can see that there's the customer name populated in the info column in that task page. This makes it really simple for people working on multiple contracts at a time to see that this contract is for XY or for High Tech Corporation or for Grand Hotels. Just makes it really easy to get some context for what exactly you need to do. So we also update some document metadata, such as the effective date, the customer name, street, city, state. You can use these variables for reporting. So like with customer name, you can have a report that says, I want to see all the contracts with High Tech Corporation. So you can use these document attributes to do that. Status would also be a big one because you want to see exactly where all of these contracts are within the life cycle. So reporting on status would be another important one. And status gets, the document metadata for status gets updated a lot throughout this workflow. So this is the first CSV mapping file we go into. Here we're pulling the value for the legal reviewer from a CSV file. So I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So if we go to the legal reviewer CSV file, we can see that the accounts are listed on the left-hand side, and these are all of the customer names. And then the corresponding legal reviewer is on the right side. So as right now, they're all listed as the Maddie legal persona, but as XYZ Corporation grows and as they get more stretched, these might have to change. So you can divide it up and say like Taylor legal Capstone gets added to the team. You can change this to be Taylor is going to manage these customers. So every contract that is created with these customers is going to be routed to Taylor. All of these customer contracts are going to be routed to Maddie. So having this CSV file makes it really easy for management in the future because you only have to update the one CSV file and then upload it into the system instead of going into the CLM workflow and making all of the changes for if it's this customer, we need to route it there. If it's this customer, we need to route it there. Having it done in one place just makes it a lot easier than having to manually go through and update the workflow each time you need to change a mapping. So Salesforce also gets updated a lot throughout the process. I showed you that it went from prospecting to negotiation and review as soon as we created that contract. This is the step that made that possible. As you go throughout the process, Salesforce can update, and it's really important that it does that because salespeople want to stay within Salesforce. They don't want to have to go through multiple different systems just to get an update on status of a contract. So having it update in both CLM and Salesforce just makes it a lot easier for everyone in the organization to stay in the system that they use the most and see the same information. So this decision point here is where we determine if the contract was uploaded or generated and what to do if that's the case. So we had the business requirement of that extra step of approval if a contract was uploaded. So if it was uploaded, we go to another CSV mapping where we set the sales manager variable. I can show you the CSV mapping for what that looks like. So as of right now, we just have the one salesperson and this one sales manager, but say we had a couple different salespeople, we could have Sarah's sales manager be the same person for Tyler, Zach, Tom. Depending on what email you put here, that the person who submits it, if it's a third-party contract, it will be routed to this person. So similar with the legal persona, as you get more sales managers and salesmen, as the numbers grow, you're going to need more people to manage in smaller groups. So having this capability makes management a lot easier in the future. So the next step in the process is to find the document that is an e-form. So we use e-forms to set the email notification information. So the instructions, the body of the email, that's all done through e-forms. So I'll show you what that looks like. So specifically for this find document, it's finding this document, which has the variable, and then it says has submitted a third-party contract for approval. Please review at the following link. So we had the salesperson's name, who has submitted the contract. If you remember, it said Caleb Marsh has uploaded a third-party contract for approval. Please review at the following link, and then provided the link. We have this, so it makes it a lot easier to edit that information in the future. So you can just come to this form, click save, and any changes you make will be populated in the workflow, and you don't have to go into the workflow and manually change things. You can just type them out here, click save, and it'll be used in the workflow going forward. Similar to the CSV mapping files, this just makes it the management in the future a lot easier compared to always having to go into the workflow and make changes. So this is the choice that the sales manager gets. As you can see, the sales manager is assigned and they have 3 options: approve, send for resubmission, or reject. So if it's rejected, obviously the workflow is finished. If it's send for resubmission, we're updating the document metadata to awaiting third-party contract or resubmission. Just so the stage is updated throughout the process, we have this step here. Again, we have a third-party submission e-form that has the workflow the email notification here as well. So this is the subject of the email. The third-party contract you have uploaded was not approved. Please review the comments added and upload a revised version of the contract. And then instructions. So this is all used throughout the workflow. If you want to make any changes, you can do it here, so you don't have to mess around with the workflow. It's super simple management in the future. And then they have the step of editing the document. So you can follow the comments that the sales manager gave you, edit the document, and then it's routed back to this step that just updates the stage for reporting, sends the email, and then we have the choice again of send for resubmission. If it still doesn't meet guidelines, reject or approve. So whether the third-party contract was approved or the original contract was a generated contract, we then come down to this step where we are updating the variable stage message. So here we have awaiting legal review from get variable legal reviewer. So we use this to make the status messages even more informational. So as you remember through the workflow that I gave from the user perspective, it said awaiting legal review from mattylegal.capstone@gmail.com. This is how that happened. So as the CSV mapping changes and the variables change, this will as well. So you can have, as long as you change the CSV mapping, this will work and give you a very informational point at stage message at that point in time. So it'll say awaiting legal review from taylorlegal.capstone@gmail.com if you add more people to the team. So we update the document metadata with that stage message that we created here for reporting purposes. We have another find document that is the legal e-form this time. So if we go here, we can see contract review needed. We have created a new contract. Please determine the best course of action going forward, and then instructions as well. And then we finally get to the legal choice of send for external review, reject, internal review, or signature. So if you reject the document, obviously the workflow is finished. We have the option send for internal review, where we update the variable choice one completed by. So that's this choice up here. The legal person who completed this, they're assigned to this variable, so we can also assign them to this task. So if we just want to make sure that the person who completed the legal review is also choosing the user for the next, or for the internal review. This is how that happens. So after they selected the internal review person, then we go to another update stage message, and you can see awaiting internal review from the internal approver. This changes with whoever was selected here. So you can see the user that was selected is stored in a variable called internal approval, which is referenced here. So whatever user is selected will be updated in this message that is then updated in the stage metadata. So again, you just get really informational stage messages as you're going through the workflow process. Again, we have another e-form for internal review, and then the e-form is referenced to put this information in the notification email. And then we have another stage message awaiting from Get Legal Reviewer, just to have the status message always up to date with where the document is in the life cycle. So after the internal review process is complete, it's back to the legal reviewer, who then can send for external review. We have the stage message updating. This is the external review e-form that is then referenced to send the email out to the external reviewer. Once that is completed, then we have the external review comments here. Once that's completed, we then update the stage message with the legal reviewer, and then just to have the updated stage again. So after that, then finally they can send for signature. We update the stage message to send for signature, update the metadata, find the document for the send for signature e-form. All of the email notifications that are sent out have e-forms associated with them. So if you ever want to change one, it just makes it really simple to go to the e-form, update it, and then the workflow will use that e-form going forward. So send for signature, we have 2 recipients selected. We have the submitted by and then the customer email. So like I said in the workflow demo from the user perspective, we're sending it to the salesman and then to the point of contact designated through those two variables. And we also have it one after the other because we selected this signature ordered box here. So we have to have that first signature before the second. Once the document is signed, we update the keyword to signed, we update Salesforce to closed, we update the sign date with the current date, and then we update the sign date metadata, the status metadata, and the stage metadata. And then we finish the workflow. So that was the workflow that I had created for XYZ Corporation to complete their contract review. Next, I will be talking about any updates that might be required in the future. So as I mentioned before, there are a few ways that you can update the workflow without actually changing any of the business logic behind how the workflow operates. So that's the eForm and then the CSV mapping files. So I'm going to show you how to change one of the eForms that I created, specifically the legal review email notification one, but the same logic applies to all of the eForms for external review, internal review, the sales manager notification, third-party resubmission notification, and send for signature. So when we click on this file here, we're going to be shown a table where it's the setting name, such as subject, body, and instructions, and the value for that. So we're going to say contract review needed is going to be changed to legal review needed for contract. We have a new contract. Please review it for legal liabilities. Determine the best course of action going forward. Guidelines and standards, that can stay the same. So if we click save, and then we're going to create a new contract, generate. We'll just select the effective date, that. So that find document in the workflow that I gave an overview of earlier is going to find the most recent eForm configuration and then send the email out according to that. So when we go to the legal persona, we can see that the legal review is now needed for a contract. We have created a new contract. Please review it for legal liabilities and determine the best course of action going forward. So we can see that the eForm easily changed the email notification going out, and that logic applies to all of the other eForm configurations as well. So the next one is the CSV mapping file. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be if there's going to be growth in XYZ, you're going to have to expand the legal team. Otherwise, the Maddie legal persona is just going to get very swamped with contracts, and obviously that's going to bog things down in terms of the pipeline time that it takes and life cycle time. So we're going to add a new person to the legal team. We're going to say Sarah Sales Capstone is now part of the legal team, just to show that you can easily add another person and have it change the mapping and the assigned people based on the changes to this file. So after this is uploaded, we're going to create a new contract for high tech. Create contract. We're going to generate one this time. John Doe. And now the legal reviewer should be Sarah Sales Manager, just because that is the email I have open. So when I go to Sarah Sales, you can see that here. They should be getting an email soon. And we can see that their tasks, we have the same choices for send for internal review, external review, send for signature. So they have the same choices that the legal persona had when completing their legal review of the document. So you can see that it's easily changeable, and you just have to upload a new version of the CSV file and everything should map accordingly. So those were the two changes that they will have to make going into the future if they continue to grow, and if they need to change their email notification. Those are two ways for them to update the process without changing any of the business logic. Next, I'm going to talk about reporting and some of the reports that I built to support XYZ Corporation in their DocuSign journey. So I mentioned throughout the explanation of the workflow that I built that I had a lot of updates to variables and document metadata, all for reporting purposes. And I want to walk through some of the reports that I built that take advantage of that functionality within the workflow. So the first one I want to start out with is contracts under review. This just gives the person viewing the report a high-level overview of all the contracts that haven't been signed yet, that are still in workflow, the customer name associated with it, and then the stage. And then, like I mentioned earlier with that C# input, it gives you very granular data about where exactly the contract is. So it's awaiting internal review from this specific person. It just makes your data a lot more granular. It gives you a lot more insight into where things are being held up and bottlenecks and such. And I have another report that takes that to an even deeper level. This contract review average duration report. As you can see, we have the start date of a workflow, the last time it was updated, the stage that utilizes that C# input to really get granular with this information here, and then the duration of the time that it is in the current stage. So this data isn't necessarily accurate, or representative of what it would look like in a real life organization. But you can see that the building blocks are there. The stage is updating with legal review from mattylegal.capstone, and it's 49 days and 6 hours in the current stage. Obviously, that's unacceptable for an organization. They want to have their contracts signed and executed and reviewed as quickly as possible to really decrease that time to revenue. So this report here will really let organizations see exactly where these contracts are, where the bottlenecks in the process are. So hopefully they can eliminate them or try to reduce them as much as possible and really decrease that time to revenue, which is the goal of any organization. In this next phase of the Capstone demo, I want to discuss user management. So for the demo, I've walked through 3 personas: the sales rep, the legal reviewer, and then the sales rep manager. So for each of those personas, I created 3 different users: Caleb Marsh, which is the sales rep persona, Maddie Legal from legal, and then Sarah, sales manager, to complete the sales management approvals. So if we click on view user, these are the permissions that Sarah, sales manager, was given. As you can see, she's a DocuSign viewer for e-signature and then CLM user. Using the principle of least privilege, these are the maximum amount of permissions that she should have. CLM user prohibits the use of the admin functionality, such as creating workflows and all of those higher level things that Sarah Sales Manager isn't going to do, because if you remember from the workflow, all she does is approve third-party contracts. So CLM user is the only permissions that she's going to need, and I'm going to show you what that looks like when she's logged in. So I created this dashboard which shows her the tasks and then some documents in her watch list. If she had wanted to star a document to watch later, she'd be able to. If she had tasks, she'd be able to easily see them here. This just provides a nice little view when she first logs in for what exactly she needs to do. For reporting, those 2 reports I walked through earlier, you can limit them to certain people within the organization. So I limited Sarah Sales Manager to just contracts under review. Really, that's only the information that she's going to need. You can limit documents to specific people, so folders to specific people. User management, something that going forward organizations are going to have to do if they were to like take this demo and try to adjust it to their organization. They're going to have to set permissions on who needs to be able to create workflows and who needs to be able to view certain documents and such. So user management's a big thing going forward that is going to need to be taken care of by any organization. The last thing I want to talk about is moving the environment that we created with all of the workflows and document generation configuration, the branding preferences over to another environment. So in order to do that, you can go to admin and then deployment, where you can create a new package. So you can name the package. We can name this demo package with a description if we want. This is generally left unselected. This option here is to overwrite the existing objects in the destination environment with the ones that you are importing from the package. So you can select that if that sounds good to you, but you can also leave it unselected if you want to just have them created as new versions. You can include some account settings, account branding preferences. That's the XYZ Corporation logo, the colors on the email, things like that. You can also include account level customization. So that's like if you want to have an action tab here, that those kind of things would transfer over as well. And then you can select the like folders you want to. So if you select this, you can go through and choose, like, I want to select the whole admin folder, which contains some of the workflow supporting files, the merge templates, CSV mapping, these kinds of things. If you want to choose, like, you can select any folder you want. You can also select attribute groups if you want to. Forms, you can see here we have the email notification forms, so you can select those if you want to. Reports, workflows. This one is what we created for the capstone, so we just especially want to select that one. Task groups. So these kinds of things you can select, and then once you click save, it will save the file in the folder that you select. So if I select admin, it's just going to save the package file in the admin folder. So after you select save, it'll save it in the folder, and then what's going to happen next is you want to download the folder and move it into the production environment that you want the stuff to be imported into. And then you'll be able to select install after that, and it'll import all of the things that you selected here. After you do that, you want to make sure that you have a plan for testing to make sure that the document generation is working as you expect. The workflows are operating accordingly. We have all the supporting files, such as the email templates, the CSV mapping. So all of those should be there in the production or environment that you're moving to. And then after you have all of that tested, you want to update the integration with Salesforce and make sure that the environments are actually connected. So when I go to press the create contract button, it's going to the proper document generation link. So that's what you would do if you want to move this environment that we created over to another environment, whether that's production or a client environment. So that concludes the demo for my capstone for the DocuSign CLM accreditation.